What is going on, Cosmic Crew? Thanks for stopping by the channel today. A couple of days ago, Marvel Studios and the Russo brothers announced that Avengers Endgame is going to be coming back to theaters in September of 2026, a few months before Avengers Doomsday releases. Now, we talked about how it's a pretty genius marketing move, but as it turns out, Marvel might be planning a little bit more with Avengers Endgame, which might include a post-credit scene. I can't say a new one because Avengers Endgame really didn't have a post-credit scene before, but it looks like there really is a very specific purpose for releasing Avengers Endgame once again in theaters. Now, everything I said yesterday remains true. It's a lot of marketing tactics and they need it to become the #1 movie of all time because that's good promotion for Avengers Doomsday, but we have some new insider reports today to go over. According to Daniel RPK, Avengers Doomsday is going to be a direct sequel to Avengers Endgame. And the first time I heard that from him yesterday, it seemed like Marvel was almost trying to move past phase 4 and phase 5 and almost really just not talk about what happened, which I kind of understand because a lot of their plans kind of got a little messed up with the Kang Doom situation and with the Jonathan Majors situation. They originally weren't going to make Kang their main villain, but Jonathan Majors' performance was so good with Loki season 1, according to Kevin Feige, the president of Marvel Studios, that they actually decided because of that performance to make him the main villain. Then, before Quantumania came out, again, according to Marvel's president Kevin Feige, they thought Kang probably won't be received too well, and I don't know if that's because they saw the quality of Quantumania or something, but then they had already started to pivot towards Doom, pivot towards Robert Downey Jr. returning before the Jonathan Majors situation even happened. So all of this started to happen, which ultimately led to kind of a change in the direction that they were going to go. So I wouldn't say that Marvel's going to erase phase 4 and 5, act like it didn't happen, but they might not really touch too much on any of the story points that happen when we go into Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars. And to top that off, we have a new report from the Beyond Reporter as well that says, spoiler alert, Avengers Endgame ends with one scene, Doomsday begins with the same scene. Now, if you can't remember what the exact scene was that Avengers Endgame ends with, it's Steve and Peggy. It's Steve holding Peggy in his arms, them dancing. Well, the house that they're in, we already know Avengers Doomsday film scenes at that house. We know that. It's been reported by big outlets that Chris Evans is returning and Haley Atwell as well. So it all seems to really be coming together now. It makes sense because the Russo brothers did say what happens at the end of Avengers Endgame does connect to Victor Von Doom's story in the MCU in Avengers Doomsday, which I find very, very, very curious. Very curious, but it's all lining up. So Avengers Endgame is reportedly that final scene. We're picking up directly from that final scene in Avengers Doomsday. If that's the first scene of that movie, then what I'm expecting to happen is Doom is going to show up. Doom shows up and he finds out somehow that whatever Steve Rogers did right there, going back in time and causing an incursion to happen, Doom finds that out. And according to other insider reports, these aren't confirmed obviously at this time, we don't know until the movie comes out, but according to these other reports, Doom goes to the Library of Worlds where he's able to basically see the archives of the entire multiverse, which is how I believe he would find out that Steve Rogers going back in time caused the incursion. So that's why he would show up. And I do think it's a good opening scene. I think it's a good opening scene because, again, yeah, it picks up right where Endgame left off. And again, to me, it's kind of like, okay, like, what happens to phase 4 and phase 5? Like, time's going to work in a very interesting way in Avengers Doomsday. And they could do a time jump as well. But so Endgame ends with the two of them slow dancing, holding each other. Doomsday, the opening scene, begins with that. And then Doom shows up. I think that's actually a pretty powerful scene. And I know some fans might not like this, and I'd like to know your thoughts in the comments because some people are like, well, Steve deserved his happy ending. And what does this mean for the end of Avengers Endgame now, where old man Steve comes back and gives the shield to Sam? Is this movie going to erase all of that? Is this movie going to kind of erase the ending that we knew for Avengers Endgame? At this point in time, we don't know, but it does kind of seem like that. It does kind of seem like Doomsday might rewrite just a little bit of what we know to have happened with Avengers Doomsday and after Avengers Doomsday. That's why I kind of feel like, I don't know what's going to happen with all of the stories for Phase 4 and Phase 5, but it kind of seems like maybe they won't become irrelevant because I think it would be hard to say like Loki's story is irrelevant. Obviously, is going to be an insanely huge factor for Avengers Doomsday. Same thing with the Scarlet Witch. You can't just ignore everything that happened and Multiverse of Madness as well. But I think it's going to be kind of like with the reset. They're going to pick and choose some things that they're going to ignore some things and they're going to say some other things that are really important, which I totally understand. But also, we kind of have a new report here from MCU Source, and I've seen other insiders state this as well online. Avengers Endgame, the re-release edition, will have a post-credit scene that directly leads to Avengers Doomsday. Obviously, we can't confirm if this is true, but I do think that this would make a lot of sense. I think it would make a lot of sense to tease Doomsday even more, and it gives one more chance for a build-up to Doctor Doom that I think a lot of fans would appreciate, because one of the biggest, I would say, concerns that a lot of people have for Avengers Doomsday is that there hasn't been really any build up to Doom. Now we've gotten into it a little bit now that we've got the Thunderbolts post-credit scene, the Fantastic Four post-credit scene. We actually saw Doom, the back of him, and we saw his mask. And thanks to insider reports, we know a little bit about why he wants Franklin Richards, and that might actually be a variant of his own son, Franklin Richards, from another universe. There's a lot of really awesome, crazy theories going on out there, but Marvel has done little teases for Doom. It makes sense that they would do another one to tease him, to build him up a little bit more. And I think a lot of the fandom would probably say, yeah, we would like a little bit more build up to Doom. So what this could be, we don't actually know, but obviously we would assume that it would build up Doctor Doom in some way, shape, or form. Doom would be in that post-credit scene. Now, I don't think it's going to be a full reveal. I think it would be something pretty similar to what we saw with the Fantastic Four post-credit scene. Like maybe we see the back of his hood. So maybe they show Steve and Peggy dancing again, or maybe they just show like a zoomed out shot of their house and then a person in a green cloak walking up to the house. If I had to kind of give my guess as to what a post-credit scene for Endgame could be that they would add to tie into Doomsday, that would be my guess. Because they show us them dancing together, they show the house, the post-credit scene, you take a step back, you see this shot of the house from the outside, and walking up to the door is Doctor Doom. Now, we did see some leaked post-credit scenes of a person opening a door to some type of house, some type of building, and it did look like Robert Downey Jr. I don't know if that is related to this at all or related to just the scene in general of Doom going up to the house of Peggy and Steve, but we have heard that that is what happens. Doom visits Peggy and Steve. We also heard that Loki visits them, which I think makes sense because if Doom visits Steve and Peggy, Doom is going to be just so much more powerful than the two of them. I don't see how if they got into a fight, how they could walk away. And if Doom is trying to kill people who caused incursions, Steve is in trouble. But if Loki shows up and saves him, that makes a lot of sense because Loki is also very powerful right now, but he also just has the ability to just take him away. And he can save him that way. He doesn't have to fight Doom. He can simply take him away. But what we're hearing so far, I think makes a lot of sense for Marvel to do. The ending of Endgame is actually kind of the opening for Avengers Doomsday. I think it makes sense to have that opening scene. If everything we've heard is true about Steve and Peggy returning, Doom visiting them, it makes sense for that opening scene to be Steve and Peggy and Doom going up to them, because that'll explain right away what Doom is doing. Hey, you caused an incursion. The multiverse is going to be destroyed. I'm the multiverse's savior. And in order to do that, I have to kill you. It establishes his motives. It establishes his motives as kind of good in his own mind, but it does also establish him as the villain because he's obviously going to try to kill him. Then it establishes Loki if he comes in and saves him. And it basically there, it establishes Loki, who is kind of holding everything together, going up against Doctor Doom, who wants to save everything but wants to do it his own way. So it establishes that clash there. And then Loki gets the Avengers. Marvel Studios recently revealed that Loki is going to be on the Avengers team. They showed us that at that cinema event in Italy, where Marvel presented the teams and Loki was on the Avengers team. And then, of course, the biggest emphasis was on the Russo brothers and Doctor Doom. So it's very much going to be Loki's team versus Doctor Doom's team for the fate of the entire multiverse. And I think that opening scene with Steve and Peggy and Doom showing up and Loki showing up, that would be a good way to start it off. And I do think it would be really good for them to have a post-credit scene that would showcase Doom a little bit more, building it up a little bit more. I hope this is what happens, and I think it makes a lot of sense, but please go ahead and let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Do you think this should happen? Do you not think it should happen? And what do you think a good post-credit scene should be for Avengers Endgame if they decide to do it? Let us know in the comments down below. Please don't forget to like this video and subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the latest Avengers Doomsday, Avengers Endgame, and Marvel news in general. And you can also find us on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and Snapchat. And as always, thank you all so much for watching. Woof woof.